Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Today I'm sharing some cards I made using Paper Rose's Summer Holiday 6x6 paper collection. When I saw this collection, I knew I had to use it. The colors are just beautiful. There are 18 double-sided pattern papers and 12 different designs. I love all of the florals. This is a fun design. You could cut it in half and use it on 2 different cards. There's some nice watercolor, distressed looking backgrounds, and there's also sheets of cut aparts. So there's some sentiments, and then there's also some beautiful floral images. Paper Rose always makes such beautiful paper collections. I will have links provided in the description box if you are interested in any of the products I use in this video. Let's go ahead and get started with card design number 1. I'm using a card sketch from Mojo Monday. This is number 528. And if you are interested in any of the sketches I use in this video, I do share all of that information on my coordinating blog post. The link is provided in the description box below, or you can simply head over to KristieMarcotte.com. For my first card, I have this fun watercolor background, added some of this beautiful floral paper, and also just a thin strip of that wood grain paper. Instead of using ribbon as indicated on the sketch, I'm using some solid cardstock. So I just cut about 1/4 of an inch strip and adhered it using some double-sided tape. I'll put some ATG tape on the back and add this panel to some solid cardstock. And my cardstock layers, I add an additional 1/8 of an inch to the measurements that are listed on the sketch. Then I'll put my card front onto a card base, leaving an 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Now, since I didn't use ribbon for that top strip, I'll also be using a paper bow. And this is from Paper Rose's Tiny Bows die set. I love this little bow. It's perfect. It won't add any extra bulk since it's nice and flat. It does have the little center, but you can use it without. For this sentiment, I'm using Paper Rose's Daisy Days stamp set. I love the sentiments on this set. This is "Thank you for your kindness." I'll cut a fishtail on the left side, layer it on some more cardstock, and then cut that fishtail again. Before adhering the sentiment to the card, since the right-hand side is going to hang off of that rectangle panel, I will add just a small scrap piece of cardstock. Then I did decide to add some of the pattern paper scrap as well. That way it's at the exact same level. I'll just adhere those in place using some liquid adhesive. And I decided to keep this card nice and simple, so I'm not adding any extra bling. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this sketch. For card design number 2, I'm combining several different pattern papers. I have the fun leaves for the background. I used the pierced rectangle die set and cut out this grid paper. Since it does have that little pierced detail along the edge, I put some ATG tape on the back and also some liquid adhesive along that outside edge. That way it'll lay nice and flat on the card. I have a couple thin strips of pattern paper that are left over from the previous card. So some of that watercolor paper and the wood grain paper. Just adhered those 2 pieces together, and I'll lay them across the lower portion of the card. I will add some scrap pattern paper on the outside edges where it goes off of that grid paper. I'll put liquid adhesive on the back and adhere it in place. I'll be layering this panel on some dark green cardstock. The dark green works really nicely with this whole collection. And if you follow my videos, you know I'm a big fan of adding cardstock layers. Although for this card, I decided not to have that green cardstock behind that grid paper. I wanted it a little softer look. I'll adhere my card front onto a card base, then bring out a few of the cut aparts. I have "Hello" for the sentiment, and also this beautiful bouquet with a little flamingo sitting on top. I decided to pop up both of them using some thin foam squares. I love how the sentiment "Hello" has a little flower on each of the letters. It's so pretty, and it brings out some more of that pink in the pattern paper. For a finishing touch, I'm adding a banner in the upper left-hand corner, just using some more of this solid green cardstock. You could use a die for those little banners, but most of the time I just cut them by hand. I also decided to add a little bit of bling to this card, and I'm using some old bling that I've had in my craft room. I'm trying to use some of this stuff up. Since it is fairly old, I am adding some liquid adhesive just to make sure it's not going to pop off of my card. So there is my finished card. I did make two using this design. For the second card, I used a different cut apart that had the little floral image. I think both of them turned out very pretty. Moving on to card design number 3, I'll be using a card sketch from OWH. This is number 92. I'm using some fun pattern paper for the background that looks like a sandy beach. Also adding some more of that beautiful floral paper. Layering everything on the dark green cardstock. And I selected this sketch for that small little rectangle. It's 1 3/4 by, I think it's 2 inches indicated on the sketch. So I thought that would be perfect for one of the cut aparts that's included in the paper collection. For that strip that goes across the card, I'm using some gold pearlescent cardstock. Before adhering it in place, I will add that scrap cardstock on the very right and left side, just to make sure it's nice and level. I'll put some ATG tape on the back of this panel and layer it on some green cardstock. You can see the back side of that sandy paper has those small cut aparts. And if you prefer the cut aparts a little bit larger, Paper Rose does sell this collection in the 12 by 12 size as well. So here's the little cut apart I'm going to use. It has the flamingo and that little bouquet. The sentiment is time to relax and unwind a little. Thought that was sweet. Layer it on some of the green cardstock. Then I'm adding some of those cardstock layers just to make sure it's nice and level. Put some liquid adhesive on the back and adhere it to the card. And I am following this sketch fairly closely. For a few finishing touches, I'm adding a few of the flower cut aparts. I'll put 2 of them next to the sentiment cut apart and then 1 off to the left. Also decided to bring in some gold bling. It looks really nice with all of the colors on this collection. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this sketch. Even with all of the beautiful cut aparts included in the collection, I only fussy cut out 1 sheet since I wanted to use the back side of that paper. For card design number 4, using another card sketch, this is from Mojo Monday, it's number 539. Using that wood grain paper for the background, I'm adding a strip of this leaf pattern paper. And this sketch indicates it's 1.5 inches wide, but I did cut it to 1 3/4 inches. Just wanted a little more of that leaf paper. For the narrow strip that goes across the card, I'm using some more of that watercolor pattern paper. It's that pinkish purple color. I love this pattern and tried to use up as much as possible. Before adhering it to the card, I did add those scrap pieces of cardstock. Then I'll adhere it using some liquid adhesive. Put some ATG tape on the back of this panel and layer it on some green cardstock. And I did need to trim down that pink strip since I cut it a little too wide for this card. I'll put my card front onto a card base, leaving that 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Now instead of the circle that's indicated on the sketch, I decided to use another cut apart. So it's a little bit smaller. These are about 1.5 inches by 2 inches. But I love this sentiment with summer bliss and all the little floral blooms around it. I'll add those scrap pieces of cardstock and pattern paper to the upper right-hand corner, and then I'll adhere it to the card. For the little banner that's in the upper left-hand corner, decided to just cut that out of some solid green cardstock. Didn't want to bring in any more pattern papers. And I did trim down the one side. I'm not sure I cut it very straight. So I'll just cut my fishtail on the bottom and adhere it to the card using some liquid adhesive. Then for a final finishing touch, I'm going to bring in some more bling, using some more old bling from my stash. So I will add some liquid adhesive first, and then put 2 in the lower right-hand corner and 1 to the left of the sentiment. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this sketch. I just love all of these patterns and colors. They're so beautiful. For card design number 5, I'm using the pattern paper that had this large circular wreath with the flowers and little stems. I cut off one section of that pattern paper, so I have this beautiful floral image. I have 2 other pattern papers as well, some more of that wood grain and also the grid pattern paper. For the background, I'm using some solid cardstock, and I'll layer this on some dark green cardstock. I added the wood grain pattern down first, just have about a 2-inch strip. Next, I'll add the grid pattern paper and offset it to the right. I'm holding up that floral image just to make sure some of that grid pattern paper will still be visible on the right-hand side. I'll put my card front onto a card base. And before I attach that floral piece, I will put a scrap piece of cardstock just on the upper portion where it goes off of all the other layers. Then I'll put liquid adhesive on the back and adhere it in the upper left-hand corner. For the sentiment, I'm using the word love. This is one of the cut-aparts, so I've already trimmed this out. I'll place it in the lower right-hand corner with the letter E going off of that floral image. So first I'll add a couple layers of the cardstock and also some pattern paper. Then I decided I'll pop up that whole sentiment. So I'm adding some thin foam squares to the back. I'll remove the release paper and adhere it in place. I decided to add a small banner in the upper left-hand corner. I'm using that same dark green cardstock, just cutting a fishtail on the bottom. I'll put liquid adhesive on the back and adhere it in place. And I decided to adhere the banner slightly above that floral panel. I felt the card needed a little bit of sparkle, so I'm using some small purple gemstones that I have on hand. I'll put 3 of them in the lower right-hand corner around the sentiment and 2 in the upper left-hand corner. So there is my finished card, and I was able to make 3. For that third card, I used the sentiment summer instead of love. I also used some purple pattern paper instead of that wood grain piece since I didn't have any more left. For card design number 6, I have some beautiful purple watercolor paper for the background. I added those fun rays using Paper Rose's Thanks Circle with Rays detail die. I also cut out 3 feathers using the Feather Trio die set, and I used some of the pattern paper for the feathers. I'll layer this purple panel on some black cardstock and then again on some purple cardstock. I think the black will really bring in some nice contrast. I always enjoy when the pattern papers have these beautiful backgrounds. Looks like I spent all this time creating them, but I didn't. I just used some pattern paper. So I'll be laying out all 3 of the feathers, having them in the center of those rays. And I'll just adhere them down using some liquid adhesive. I'll start with the one in the center. And I didn't put liquid adhesive on every little part of the feather, just the main areas. I'll put an acrylic block on top to let that glue adhere. And then I'll work on the second feather and then do the same to the third feather. I really like the look of the feathers using the pattern paper. Adds a little more interest. So once I have all 3 of the feathers adhered, I can work on the sentiment. Decided to add the word summer, and I will be popping this up using some thin foam squares. I'll just remove the release paper and adhere it to the center, leaving just the bottom portion of the feather showing. Then I thought it would be fun to add a few more words to the sentiment. I'm using the Sunshine word stamp set, and I've already stamped out sending you and sunshine. So the whole sentiment will be sending you summer sunshine. I'll add a small scrap piece of the pattern paper on the left side of the sending you portion of the sentiment and adhere it to the card with some liquid adhesive. And I decided to put it at an angle. The word sunshine, I didn't need any scrap cardstock, so I could just glue it down directly onto the card. Using some twine I have on hand, this is white twine with some gold threads. It's really pretty. I already tied a bow, and I'll adhere it to the card with some small glue dots. Just put it underneath the word summer. One final finishing touch, I decided to add a few gold gemstones. I'll put one to the right of the word summer, one above the sending you portion, and one in the upper left-hand corner. I think the gold works really well with that golden brown on the feathers. So there is my finished card. I love how this one turned out. It's definitely my favorite. But do let me know which card is your favorite. Now here's another look at the 12 cards I made using the Summer Holiday Collection by Paper Rose. This collection is absolutely beautiful. I love the colors and I love all of the designs. Now I didn't finish off the paper collection completely, but I don't have any more full sheets, just some small scraps and some leftover cut aparts. If you are interested in this paper collection or any of the products I used in the video, I will have links provided in the description box below. Paper Rose is based in Australia. They do ship their products internationally, but you can also purchase them here in the US. I will have links for both locations in the description box. Now I need to figure out which paper collection to use next. They have so many beautiful papers. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.